So for this question, we have to do two things. We have to carefully read the problem, and we need to write a number sentence that matches this word problem. And then we need to evaluate that expression. So the first thing we're going to do is read it and highlight any important information. So Maria's sister Jen is 3 times as old as Diego was 2 years ago. So here we know that we're trying to find Jen's age. We know that she is 3 times as old as Diego was 2 years ago. So I'm going to highlight that as well. Okay. So we should also notice here that we do not need to know Maria's age in order to solve this. So that is not important information. What we do need to know is that Diego is 4 years old. So we know that from part A. So we're going to start with Diego's age, 4. And then it says that Jen is 3 times as old as Diego was 2 years ago. So in order to know how old Diego was 2 years ago, we need to do 4 minus 2. I'm going to add parentheses to 4 minus 2 because I know that I need to figure out how old he was 2 years ago before I can figure out Jen's age. So now I have the first part of my expression. I know that Diego is 4 years old now and that we need to figure out how old he was 2 years ago. So we did 4 minus 2. Now we also know that Jen is 3 times as old as Diego was 2 years ago. So the next thing I'm going to add is times 3. I'm adding times 3 because the problem says that she is 3 times as old as Diego. So now we have our expression. We know that the second thing we need to do here is to actually solve it. So we have 4 minus 2 in parentheses. So we know that we need to solve that first. And the answer to that is 2. So we know that 2 years ago, Diego was 2. And now we know that Jen is 3 times that age. So we're going to do 2 times 3, which tells us that Jen is 6 years old. Before I move on, I'm just going to double check my work to make sure that it all makes sense. So the first thing we did here was subtract 2 from 4. We did that because we know that Diego's 2, and we're trying to figure out how old he was 2 years ago. Then we multiplied 2 by 3. We did that because we know that Jen is 3 times as old as Diego was 2 years ago, which got us 6. So now we know that Jen is 6 years old. I know that my work is correct. I double checked, and now I'm ready to move on to the next part.